In the summer of 1945, as World War II entered its sixth relentless year, Japan was a nation on the edge of collapse. Yet life in Hiroshima remained deceptively peaceful. Nestled among gentle hills and intersected by the tranquil Oda River, Hiroshima was a city of bridges, temples, schools, and families, a city of beauty, resilience, and hope. It was home to nearly 350,000 people, including students, shopkeepers, soldiers, and children. To the people of Hiroshima, the war felt distant. American bombing raids had devastated other Japanese cities, but Hiroshima had remained untouched. Their citizens took comfort in the illusion that perhaps their city would be spared. They could not have known that they had been chosen, not for mercy, but for demonstration. The world at war's end. By mid-1945, Nazi Germany had already fallen. The Allies had turned their full attention to Japan, whose resistance showed no sign of ending. The Pacific War had already claimed millions of lives, from the jungles of Burma to the islands of Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Each battle brought horrific casualties. Military planners estimated that an invasion of Japan could cost up to 2 million Allied lives and even more Japanese. In the United States, President Harry Truman faced an impossible choice: continue the war with massive losses or use a weapon so powerful that it could end the conflict in a single stroke. The Manhattan Project. Behind the scenes, in laboratories scattered across America, from Los Alamos to Oak Ridge, scientists had been racing to unlock the terrifying secret of atomic energy. The effort was known as the Manhattan Project, a vast and secret program employing over 130,000 people. Under the leadership of physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, scientists developed two types of atomic bombs, one using uranium, nicknamed Little Boy, and another using plutonium, called Fat Man. When the first bomb was tested on July 16, 1945, in the deserts of New Mexico, the explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. Witnessing the fireball, Oppenheimer recalled a line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Humanity had crossed a line from which it could never return, choosing the target. In late July 1945, a U.S. military committee reviewed a list of possible Japanese cities to target. Hiroshima was selected for several reasons. It was a major military command and communications center, a key port for soldiers and supplies, and crucially, it had not been heavily bombed. This made it ideal for measuring the bomb's true destructive power. The final order was signed by President Truman. The world's first atomic attack was no longer an experiment, it was a mission. August 6, 1945. The mission begins. At 2:45 a.m., a B-29 superfortress named Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul W. Tibbets, lifted off from Tinian Island in the Pacific. Inside its belly rested Little Boy, a uranium bomb weighing over 4 tons. The crew had been briefed, but few fully understood the nature of the weapon they carried. Hours later, the aircraft approached the Japanese mainland. Below them, Hiroshima lay bathed in the soft light of morning. It was 8:15 a.m. The flash. In an instant, the sky erupted into blinding light. The bomb detonated approximately 600 meters above the city center, unleashing energy equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. Temperatures at the core of the explosion reached over 4,000 degrees Celsius, or 7,200 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the surface of the sun. Within the first second, everything within a 2-kilometer radius was vaporized. Steel melted, glass turned to liquid, and human beings closest to ground zero simply ceased to exist. For miles around, the blast wave flattened buildings, uprooted trees, and sent debris whirling through the air like a storm of razors. A city of shadows and fire. Where once stood homes and offices, now only shadows remain. Dark human silhouettes burned into stone steps, bridges, and walls. Those who survived the initial blast were hurled across the ground, their bodies scorched and bleeding. Fires ignited across the ruins, merging into a massive firestorm that consumed everything in its path. Black rain began to fall, thick with radioactive ash and soot. Survivors, many naked and burned, wandered the streets streets like ghosts, crying for water. The city's rivers filled with people trying to escape the flames, their bodies floating lifelessly downstream. Voices from the inferno. In the chaos, the survivors, later known as the Hibakusha, experienced horrors beyond imagination. A young schoolgirl named Sadako Sasaki, only 2 years old at the time, would later become one of Hiroshima's most famous victims. Exposed to radiation, she grew up seemingly healthy, but years later developed leukemia. In the hospital, she began folding paper cranes, symbols of peace and healing in Japanese culture. Her death at age 12 became a lasting reminder of the children who perished in the attack. The days after. In the days that followed, the scale of destruction became clear. Out of Hiroshima's 350,000 residents, nearly 70,000 were dead instantly, and by the end of the year, over 140,000 had perished. Hospitals overflowed with the wounded, though most doctors and nurses had died in the blast. Radiation sickness claimed thousands more. Victims who seemed unharmed at first, but soon began to bleed, lose their hair, and fade away. Hiroshima had become a city of silence and suffering. The second bomb, Nagasaki. Just 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, another bomb, Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. The destruction was immense, killing 40,000 people instantly and injuring thousands more. Faced with this unimaginable devastation, Emperor Hirohito made a historic decision. On August 15, 1945, he addressed his people by radio, declaring Japan's surrender. His trembling voice marked the end of World War II. For the first time in history, humanity had witnessed the end of a world war and the beginning of a nuclear age. Hiroshima after the war. In the months that followed, Hiroshima became a laboratory of grief and survival. Journalists and scientists arrived to study the effects of radiation. Families searched the ruins for loved ones who would never be found. Yet, amidst the ash and sorrow, the people of Hiroshima began to rebuild. The atomic bomb dome, one of the few structures that survived near the blast center, was preserved as a monument. Around it, the Peace Memorial Park was created, a place not of anger, but of remembrance. The Hibakusha and the message of peace. The survivors, scarred both physically and emotionally, carried the memory of Hiroshima with them for the rest of their lives. They spoke not out of vengeance, but out of warning. They told their stories in schools, at peace conferences, and across nations, determined that no other people should endure such pain. Their testimonies inspired the creation of international movements against nuclear weapons, urging world leaders to remember the cost of that morning in 1945. The legacy of Hiroshima. Hiroshima changed the course of history. It forced nations to confront the moral consequences of their power. It marked the dawn of the Cold War as the world raced to build even more destructive weapons. But it also gave birth to a global movement for peace, disarmament, and human dignity. To this day, Hiroshima stands as both a warning and a hope, a city reborn from destruction, forever reminding humanity of the line it should never cross again.